His prognosis is very good. He's been recently boosted. He received his second shot on March 30th. He's on Paxlovid, which is going to substantially reduce his risk of a bad COVID outcome. And he's, notwithstanding his advanced age, he's otherwise in good health. I think that the risk of him progressing to more severe disease is single digits, probably around 1 or 2%. And they're going to be vigilant. They have other options. They can dose him with the monoclonal antibodies if, in fact, he develops more severe symptoms as remdesivir. So he should be in good shape. I think that from the White House standpoint, we need to remember that he was diagnosed very early in the course of his illness. That this was a routine test that detected this, and then once they found the positive antigen test and confirmed it with PCR, then they elicited the symptoms, going back and asking him, do you have any symptoms? So it's possible that he's going to have more symptoms as the days go by. He might develop a fever. He might develop more URI-type symptoms. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. I think from a White House standpoint, they should be emphasizing that he's at substantially reduced risk given the therapeutics and the vaccination, and not the fact that he doesn't have any symptoms yet. He may, in fact, develop some symptoms before he fully recovers.
Pfizer question, since you're on the board, and given that the president's taking Paxlovid and there's still at least anecdotal evidence of rebound cases all over the country, do you think that the course of Paxlovid should be longer? There are doctors now that are prescribing effectively 2 doses or 2 courses of it at this point.
Yeah, look, I know the FDA is looking at the question, and I'm going to leave it to the regulators to make a decision about that. I think that the studies that have come out, the population-wide studies, the real-world evidence that's looked at the question of rebound, haven't really affirmed the anecdotal reporting that we're seeing on Twitter and from physicians. It does seem to be consistent with what was observed in the clinical trials, where the rate of rebound or people having persistent symptoms after coming off the drug was quite low and consistent with placebo. But I'm going to leave it to the regulators to make a decision about what the appropriate course should be for the drug. The relative risk reduction, if you look at the phase 2, phase 3 study, the EPIC study, the relative risk reduction for someone 65 years or older with Paxlovid was about 94%. So, this, and the hospitalization rate, the risk of hospitalization or death was around 1.1%. So this should have a treatment impact for the president.
Doctor, you've talked about the potential for a surge this summer, and then, of course, this issue of when we're going to get new vaccines, the BA that are based off BA4, and the sort of race between those two things. How do you think that race is going? Do you think we're going to see those vaccines as early as September or October, and will it be in time?
Well, I think that the BA4 vaccine, which CDC and FDA seem to have pivoted to, I think will be available at some point in September, and certainly by October you should have it available if everything goes well. Both companies, both Moderna and Pfizer, have said that they could have supply by then, and perhaps substantial supply, enough to meet demand. With respect to the BA1 vaccine, as you remember, both companies formulated BA1 bivalent vaccines based on the original Omicron strain. That could be available now. Both companies manufactured that at risk in advance. FDA and CDC have made a decision not to deploy that. I think the Europeans and the Canadians may make a different decision and start deploying that and then roll over into the B4 vaccine when it becomes available. And I also think that the accruing evidence that we've seen, even in recent days, suggests that prior infection with BA1 does confer not pretty robust protection against BA4 and BA5, not absolute for sure. But it does suggest that if you were vaccinated with a BA1 bivalent vaccine, that would confer better protection against B4 and B5 than the old ancestral strains. So to the extent that we're asking people right now who are at risk to go out and get another booster, I think we should consider whether or not we make that BA1 bivalent available now to people who are at risk so they can get the better protection from that vaccine. And then when the BA4 vaccine becomes available, roll that out. There's enough of an interval of time between now and then that people could potentially get boosted with both.
Doctor, it's a semantic argument, obviously, and there's characteristics of both, I guess. But would you say at this point that this is characteristic today? Is it more akin to a pandemic, or is it now moved to where it's endemic? Because every time you talk about people, you say people at risk. Can it be a pandemic if the vast majority of people are not at a high risk of an adverse event? Or what does it have more characteristics of right now, a pandemic or an endemic, which you we've been wishing we'd get there for quite a while now.
Well, look, this is an endemic virus, but an endemic virus can cause a pandemic. We have a flu pandemic every year. So, it meets the definition of being a pandemic. You have global spread of a pathogen, uncontrolled spread of a pathogen. But this is, at this point, this is an endemic virus. We're not going to be able to extinguish this.
Well, okay. Are we still in a pandemic?
We're still in the pandemic with COVID, yes. You're going to see, this is probably going to be a seasonal pandemic. Even if this settles into a seasonal pattern, it's going to meet the definition of it being a pandemic, even if it's an endemic virus. I think the reality is most people now see the pandemic as a part of the fabric of modern life rather than some kind of public health emergency. And some of that is simply widespread recalibration of risk. But I think most people aren't immunologically naive now, so they have protection. They feel less at risk.